Fuel Standard. Just get closer.
Thanks. Real close, like get your cooties close?
Yeah.
Okay. Closer. Okay, there we go. Well, like you said, I'm Jim Greif. I'm from eastern Iowa. I farm about 1,000 acres of corn and soybeans. And I just wanted to reiterate with some of our congressmen that we are hurting out there. And if they could relay the message to the EPA, I mean, the law is the law on this renewable fuel standard, and these backdoor waivers are really, really hurting us. So anything we can do to relay the message to stop the backdoor waivers and promote the RFS would be greatly appreciated by the administration. So, you know, just granting us E15 would give us probably a 10 or 5 to 10 cent relief in the fuel prices just automatically, and that's one thing that we can do. So I don't have a lot more to say other than that, but just keep pressing the message to our administration to keep the renewable fuel standard in place and grant us the E15 waiver.
Thank you, Jim. We really appreciate it. Appreciate your service there. Give us a little more volume. We got a lot of bodies in here. All right, Jerry, I'm going to ask Jerry to come forward. Jerry Calease is one of the early founders of one of the ethanol plants in Iowa, and he is a farmer. Where are you from?
Waverly, Bremer County.
From Waverly, and he serves on the board of the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association, is also on the board of Golden Grain Energy in Mason City, and so we wanted to ask Jerry to come up and share a few thoughts.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank all of you and Steve Sukup for giving me this opportunity. You look around this room, you are all survivors. You've seen these hard times before, you've seen embargoes, you've seen the longshoremen strike, you've seen the floods of '93, the floods of 2008, and now we've been fighting a political battle, the RFS. The big thing that upsets me about what's been going on with the RFS is the lack of transparency on these waivers. And when you figure 2.25 billion gallons are gone, that's close to 780 to 800 million bushel of corn. If we didn't have that in our carryout, we'd have a lot better price for our corn today. I was coming home from the American Coalition of Ethanol meeting in Minneapolis last week, stopped to fuel up my pickup, and I noticed price of premium gas, $3.19, bushel of corn, $2.94. Folks, something is wrong here. Something is really wrong when we can take a bushel of corn and turn it into 3 gallons of ethanol, and yet one price of fuel, a gallon of fuel, is costing us more than that bushel of corn. We can take that bushel of corn, turn it into ethanol, DDGs for our livestock industry, which is so very important here in Iowa, and then we also have our corn oil to be blended with the biodiesel. We need to keep stressing on those things, that we are a renewable fuel industry. We are the ones that produce the corn. We're the ones that need to have free market access. I shouldn't use the word free, fair market access. We want fair marketing, and we want this RFS straightened out. The 3 points I'd like to make with the RFS is when the waivers were granted, it did a lot of damage. They should be transparent. We should know what companies received those waivers. Was it ExxonMobil? Was it CHS? Who was it? Who got the waivers, and why aren't they being reallocated? I'm sure Congressman King can allude to the fact that when they were granted waivers, when the first RFS was made out, those gallons are supposed to be reallocated. They're not supposed to be set on a shelf to be idle. So let's make sure that the administration stands up and lives to the letter of the law. The third thing we've already alluded to is we need to make E15 available year-round. It's the most ridiculous law I've ever heard of. So when we raised money to put in blender pumps, our own government helped with a BIP program. We help our refineries put in blender pumps, and then they had to put a bag over the hose for 3 months out of the year. Where's the equity in that? You know, where's the equality? So I guess the very best solution we have, instead of looking for people to blame, let's look for solutions. one of the best solutions I know of is every semi that's hauling corn or hauling your products, make sure it has B20 in it, and make sure every vehicle that's on the road is burning E15 and higher blends. If we can't condemn somebody else, if we're not using our own products, let's keep marching forward and consuming more of our own products of what we produce. Because good Lord knows, even with all the weather that's been thrown at us, we have a tremendous crop coming again this year, and we need to have market access for all of it. So with that, Monte, I'm sure I used up my time. Is there going to be questions later, or you will handle the questions?
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. No, thanks, Jerry. Just think about that. A bushel of corn is selling for less than a gallon of gasoline, and we can make 3 gallons of ethanol out of that bushel. That is just crazy. That shows that we don't have the market access we need. That shows why we need the RFS. That shows why we need E15. Next up, we're very lucky. Obviously, this is a big event, and so Kevin, come on up. We're joined by Kevin Skunes. He's a farmer. Oh, all right, didn't see you there. All right, we're going to call an audible. We appreciate, you've got a whole group of your counterparts here, right? We do. So Iowa Secretary of Agriculture, have to keep those straight now, there's so many around. Iowa Secretary of Agriculture, Mike Neg, just broke away from a group of other ag secretaries where I know they got hammered on the importance of ethanol and biodiesel earlier today. So we wanted to thank you for coming over and give you the mic for a few minutes. And hold it up and close.
Okay, thank you, Monte. Thanks for being here. You bet. We are out here on the grounds today with secretaries and directors of ag from across the Midwest. So yeah, I can sneak away for just a minute here, but I really just wanted to come and join with you all in making sure that our voice is being heard here on this important issue, and really renew our call on the administration for their continued efforts to, we need them to live up to the promises made to support a strong renewable fuels standard in this country. We need access to higher blends of ethanol. Let's get E15 done, but let's move beyond that even and get to those higher blends. We have got to see an end to this small refiner waivers that are damaging the demand out there, that are destroying this demand, that is having an impact on our communities today. We need this practice to stop. And the final thing is unleash the productivity of this great industry, both ethanol and biodiesel, to produce. We know if we can provide consumers with choice that they want these blends, it's good for consumers, it's good for the environment, it's good for our jobs in this industry, and it's good for our farmers. My goodness, why can't we move ahead? And so we will continue to advocate on behalf of Iowa and our interests, and as long as I'm the Secretary of Agriculture, I promise you this, I will protect and defend your interests. We will continue to advocate on this great issue. Thank you all for being here to make sure that that voice is being heard. Keep it up.
Thank you so much, Secretary Neg, for stopping by. We know you've got a busy schedule. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. One more round of applause for our Secretary of Agriculture. Now we'll move to one of our national supporters. Actually, he's just a farmer from Arthur, but not Arthur, Iowa, Arthur, North Dakota. Kevin Skunes is currently the president of the National Corn Growers Association, so he was here, and we're delighted that he was able to stop by.
Monte, thanks a lot. Thanks, Secretary Neg, for stopping by. So last weekend I was in Des Moines, Iowa. I was presenting just an update to the Iowa corn growers, and they had me on after Secretary Neg. I thought, well, I should have just, recorded his speech and repeated it. Well, the same goes for today. But thanks, Monte, Iowa RFA, thanks to the Iowa corn growers for making this rally possible and for coordinating this. We know that, ethanol and renewable fuels are so important to the U.S. farmers, the U.S. corn industry. Our livestock industry is the corn growers, oldest and best customer. But without ethanol, we wouldn't be able to get rid of this pile of corn that we have, and we're so thankful for all the groups that are out there. NCGA appreciates what Secretary Perdue has done for us in sticking up for the RFS. We know that when the discussion first started about RINs last winter and about the RFS, we were in a much different place. I don't think he understood exactly what RINs meant to the farmers. Well, you know, maybe to the farmer out in the countryside, he doesn't exactly know about RINs, but he knows that ethanol is part of his market. So in default then, you know, all of the farmers out there really do care about RINs, and we care about the RFS. And the demand destruction that we've seen in the small refinery waivers that we've been talking about out here, you know, 40 small refineries across the U.S. have gotten waivers without, you know, producing any evidence of economic harm. We just think that's bad policy, obviously. Jerry mentioned we just think there needs to be some transparency in this. 2.25 billion gallons of ethanol have been waived. That's a lot of demand destruction. You know, we in the corn industry, national corn, you know, we're looking for solutions in the marketplace. We obviously don't want to have any government handouts. You know, all the subsidies have gone by the wayside in ethanol. We want the market to pull the demand for ethanol. We know we can do that if we have the fair and balanced trade. Just a little bit on the market facilitation program. We know that corn basically got left out of that. They mentioned 1 cent. Well, you know, that's not very respectable for the corn industry. We hope that the Secretary of Ag can do something about that. And you know, the time for some of these actions is now. We talked about the RVP parity. You know, getting rid of all the small refinery waivers. The RVP parity for the blends over E10 is very important to us, as we've all been saying, and let's get that. So Secretary Perdue understands, you know, what corn does for the rural economy, and we need to have him sell our ideas and our beliefs out there, and take back to the administration what we're asking. So thank you all for being such strong supporters. When Secretary Perdue gets here, tell him thanks, but let's take our strong message back to the administration that we need a strong RFS. So thank you very much.
Thank you, that's exactly right. Randy, we'll ask Randy to come up here, Randy Doyal. While Randy's going up here, I do want to thank again to Sukup. I see Steve Sukup out here if you want to wave the green hat. I'll get him to wear a blue one later, but he's got to sell some grain bins. It's just very nice of them to give us this space for 20 or 30 minutes, because they are here to do business. But this just shows the type of supporters they are for farmers in the ethanol industry and biofuels and biodiesel industry. So just want to say thank you. It's now my honor to introduce Randy Doyal, one of the true pioneers in the ethanol industry. We even let him come down all the way from Minnesota. But he's one of the few people I know that's been involved in ethanol longer than I have. So with that, Randy Doyal.
Thank you, Monte. Yeah, about 37 years now. So been doing this for a while. You know, I'm glad that everybody's coming together. We do need to show a little love to the Secretary, but we also need to remind him that this administration made some big promises to us, and we're still waiting to see those come through. That's very important. You know, folks, we're involved in a business that is just incredible. I'm sorry, Monte, I'm going to go off track here a little bit, but I got a whole crowd and I can't help but preach, okay? You have to forgive me. But you know, everybody's chasing solar, right? We are in the solar industry. Guys, God created the best solar collector out there. It's called a corn plant. And how's that corn plant store its energy? In the most efficient battery you've ever seen, these little corn kernels. And we get to unzip that, turn it into a liquid solar-based fuel to fuel our cars and clean up our air. We get to concentrate that feed value instead of shipping all that excess starch down that the livestock don't need. We're concentrating it up and shipping the protein that we do need to grow more livestock. We're recovering corn oil, and we're using that for feed and for biodiesel. Man, it's an incredible business. It's changed a lot over the years, and we've really got something to be proud of, something that actually gives back to our economy, to our local communities, and to ourselves. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we do have a few more speakers. I hope you'll hang around for them. But we're just very excited that as he's making his rounds around the grounds here today, that USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue is in the building. He's eating some corn. That's the food kind, not the fuel kind. And I think, is that Bill Northey? Let's give it up for Bill Northey, former secretary. We're just so excited to have you here today. If you'd like to come on up and say a few words, we want to say a couple things to you. The first one is thank you. We know that you are sometimes a very lonely voice inside the administration, outside the president, supporting renewable fuels and the RFS and E15. So we just wanted the opportunity to say thank you for doing that. Please keep it up. Can we say thank you, Iowa?
Thank you.
As you've heard some of the other speakers, we'd love to get some markets going. If we can get the RFS back to 15 billion gallons, if we can get E15, that's our other message, that we hope that you can go back to the White House and say you came to the Farm Progress Show and this is important to farmers and they'd really like to see action now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue.
Thank you, Monte. I've had good instruction here. You all sent a good one to DC, and we're sure enjoying Bill Northey's counsel and advice. They're obviously responsibility of our FPAC organization all over the country, and you trained him well, and we're delighted to have him here, and he's training me well as well. So thank you all for coming out today, and again, I've got to recognize that we're here with my good friends, the Sukup family, and it was great to see you guys again, and I enjoyed our tour there last year, and to meet you, Steve, and your brother and your family there, and to see a great American story there of the Sukup family selling all over the world now. So we're really proud of you. We appreciate you hosting this today. Obviously, you won't believe this, Monte, but as we were pulling up to the expo grounds here this morning, I got a call at an unknown number, and I have learned to pick those up now. Most of us ignore those unknown numbers, but the voice on the other line says, is this Secretary Perdue? I said, yes. They said, well, this is the White House operator. Can you hold for the president? I said, no, I'm meeting Bill Northey. I got to go to the Farm Progress Show. I see our friend Congressman King over here too. Good to see you, Steve. And but no, I did take his call. You'll be glad to know. And you'll be also glad to know the topic. He said, Sonny, I've got two things for you. He said, and one of them, we need to get this RFS situation straightened out and get E15 12 months. So I bet this is the 5th or 6th time he's mentioned to me personally, sometimes at odd hours of the night, at 6 a.m. in the morning, 11:30 at night. But it's on his mind, and he wants something done quickly. He said, you get with that EPA administrator, and y'all bring me something next week that I can announce. So I hope to tell you I'm optimistic that the president will be able to do what's in his heart. It's been in his heart for a while. He wants to do just like when he committed here and he ran. So, well, hang on, and it's never over till it's over, just like the trade deals. But what happened this week with Mexico and the NAFTA arrangement, what we hope will happen very quickly this week with Canada, and getting the dominoes falling back into the trade one by one is so critical to our farm sustainability. A lot of people talk about sustainability in agriculture. I tell them there's nothing more sustainable than profit on a farm, right? And you know, you show us $12 soybeans and $5 corn, we'll show you some sustainability in agriculture. And we want to get back there as quickly as possible. You guys, the problem is you've done it to yourself. You're so productive that the rest of the world knows if they open their markets to you, they could not compete, and you would own the world market. And that's essentially what's happening. That's why we see these barriers, both tariff and non-tariff barriers that we're trying on China. But I think the good news is the president appreciates your support. He understands that while the pain is economic and you can't pay the bills with your patriotism, he appreciates the fact that the United States farmer rancher embodies the best of the American spirit, and he's here to tell you, he wanted me to tell you thank you, and that he wants to get this situation on RFS and 12-month E15 resolved as soon as possible, and then continue to work on the trade issues. You know China's been cheating. Farmers don't cheat. They don't like cheaters. And we hope to get them to the table to do what they should be doing all along and letting our products go in there. We've been in all over the great chemistry and the agri-tech and the precision agriculture and all the things you see here at the Farm Progress Show. Just imagine if we were turned loose worldwide, what the American farmer rancher could do for the world in feeding these 9 billion people are coming. So thank you very much. I want to turn it over to my mentor, Bill Northey here, for all the things that he's taught me and is teaching me about Iowa agriculture, but agriculture in general. Thank you guys. I love you. The president loves you too. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I tell you, probably the most common question I get is, how you liking things? What's it like? And I say, I love it. I love working for this guy. He's got a great team at USDA. We got great folks. I miss Iowa. I miss Iowans. And it is great to see so many folks, friends here. Thank you all for being here, all your support for me through the years, all the lessons you all taught me through the years as well, but certainly thank you for being here and keeping this issue front and center. It's very important. It's always been one of those issues that's taken some work, and there's a lot of folks in this room that have been an awful important part of the work to make it happen, whether it's starting handing out nickels at gas pumps or policy issues or other kinds of things that you all have been a part of, and you're the reason that folks in other places are aware of this. So thank you all for being here. Certainly, I love being back. This is my first official trip back to Iowa in the 6 months I have been at USDA. Been back a couple times for some family events, but nothing better than coming back for the Farm Progress Show, except coming back more often, right? But coming back for the Farm Progress Show. So, again, thank you all. Thank you for being here. I'm sure hopeful that there's some good news very soon on several different fronts. And let me tell you for sure, you know the Secretary and his team, our team, are fighting for you. And certainly the President's aware of these issues because the Secretary and the President have had many conversations. You all have been a part of that as well. So thank you all. Great to be here. Good to see you. Thank you.
Folks, one more time, thank you to Secretary Sonny Perdue for fighting for us. Let's hope we can get it done this next week. If you can, hang around. We have a couple more speakers. We had to accommodate the Secretary's schedule. But Ron Heck, come on up. We've got Congressman King here. And so if you can hang with us just a second, we do want to hear Ron Heck is a farmer from Iowa, and then he represents everyone. He's been the head of the Iowa Biodiesel Board, the Iowa Soybean Association. You're on the boards of the National Biodiesel Board, American Soybean Association, or were, so retired from that. So he's been fighting for biofuels and biodiesel especially for a long time. So Ron, take it away.
Thank you, Monte. Well, Secretary Perdue is a very tough act to follow, and I got to tell you, he does more than just give a good speech. He opens his doors to us in Washington, D.C. I've been in his office. He talks and he listens, and he's doing a great job for us. He makes his staff accessible to us, and he's not just here giving a speech. I tell you, he works for agriculture every day. What he said, what Bill Northey said about him is just absolutely true. So I'm here for biodiesel. I've got to say the RFS applies to biodiesel too. The exemptions, the hardship exemptions alone have cost biodiesel about 300 million gallons a year. Iowa leads the nation in biodiesel production, and 300 million gallons is about what we produce in Iowa. So we need to get these exemptions stopped. They're not true hardships. And as I said, Secretary Perdue does more than just give speeches. The USDA issued their own comments to the EPA saying exactly what I just said and suggesting to the EPA ways that they might do a better job on the RFS in the future than they have in the past, and stop handing out those exemptions and account for the harm of 300 million gallons a year that does for biodiesel. So I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting Secretary Perdue and Bill Northey. They are truly doing a great job for us. And thanks, and you are well represented at the USDA. Make sure everyone knows it, and keep supporting them. So thank you. Thanks, Monte.
Thank you, Ron. Sorry about the timing. When I got here this morning, I wasn't even sure if Secretary Perdue was going to be able to swing over here. We thought we might be asking you all to follow us down to another place where we knew he was going to be at noon. So they said if he could come, we'd pull him in. But let's have Brett come up. Brett, come on up. We've got, and then Mr. Congressman King will be next. Brett Lieberman is the Vice President of New Holland, one of our key partners in the ag industry, as well as he sits on the board of Growth Energy. So we heard from, I think I actually forgot to say this before, so I'm going to say now. We heard from Randy Doyal earlier, who sits on the board of the Renewable Fuels Association, one of our national trade groups. Brett sits on the board of another one, Growth Energy, and is doing a great job supporting us and getting our work done out in D.C., as well as helping our farmers in the field. So Brett, thanks for being here.
Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for all of you being here. This is so critical to the agricultural economy, and we had the opportunity as New Holland to join with Growth Energy back in 2012. And I can't say enough about what Growth Energy does every day in Washington to be carrying the flag for ethanol and for farmers across this country. They are working very hard on all the important issues, and for the successes that we've had with ethanol, and as we have some of these threats that we have today, have been pushing forward and carrying the flag for you. I think more important than anything is what's on this banner right back here, is farmers need year-round E15. This is a solution that works for everyone. It works for you. It works for the gas retailer. It works for the customer. So lower cost, cleaner burning fuels that they can buy at the pump, it works for everyone. The only thing that's holding gas retailers from getting more engaged with this is the RVP waiver. If we get that to go year-round, we believe there's an opportunity for 2 billion gallons of additional, 2 billion bushels of additional corn consumption, okay? So think of what that could do for you, think of what that could do for the ag economy, and that's why it's so important to everybody here that's on this entire property, here at this Farm Progress Show, for us to take this forward and get it done, just like the Secretary talked to us about possibly next week, as a real solution for all of us that work in agriculture. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Brett. Really appreciate that. And again, I want to apologize for the timing. We didn't know how this was all going to work out, but our cleanup batter is Congressman Steve King. His district in the 4th District represents more ethanol and biodiesel and other renewable BTUs than any other district in the entire world. Someone said earlier, solar energy. You know, you want solar? God created some really good solar batteries. They're called corn kernels and soybeans. So with that, come on up here, Congressman King. We really appreciate you coming here and spending some time with us.
Thanks, Monte. I appreciate you all being here, and there's no better place to be in the world than the Farm Progress Show. And I like it as much, or I'd say more than even the State Fair, because I learn more here than I do at the State Fair. And standing here, as Monte said, you're in the 4th Congressional District. That's the district I represent, and I'm very proud and happy that I represent the #1 renewable fuel producing congressional district in all of America. And that's when you add up the BTUs from biodiesel and from ethanol and from wind production, and you don't even have to go to solar panels to get that, but we're getting more of those. My little asterisk on that is, though, I'm watching corn ground being taken to put solar panels in it. What sense does that make? When you go down the road, take a picture of that, send that off to somebody, put it out on Facebook. Maybe they'll realize that you can find some ground out there that's not got a CSR rating like some of this does with solar panels on it. But I wanted to take you a little bit through the history of what has happened in this, I'll say, this part of the country. And some Minnesotans got started on this. I want to tip my hat to that. I've known some of those people, but this is homegrown engineering on ethanol production. And I recall in about 1983, we went to an energy expo down at the convention center in Des Moines, and a man from Grimes named Dennis Day, since passed away, had built a still on his farm, and they were making ethanol out of corn, and gas prices were high, and they had these Deutz tractors, these German tractors, they were burning the ethanol in, 100% ethanol as far as I knew. He told us all how to do it. He showed us all of the, I guess it would have even been PowerPoints then, and we were all excited to go home and build our own still. And I asked the question, why don't we get this engineering from ADM and Cargill? After all, they're making ethanol. And the answer was they're not interested in the fuel business, and they're not going to share their technology. And that was an honest answer, and it's the way it turned out. So we had to have our local farmers pick up their tools and build this engineering and design it out now to where it's far more sophisticated than we imagined at the time, and better than any place in the world, including Brazil, that got a little bit of a head start on us. So the industry was built back then when we had lousy corn prices. And there's something about the economy, when you've got lousy corn prices, you start cooking up ideas because you don't have any money, and so how are you going to get out of that? And it's actually a typical cycle of an economy that when it goes down, that's when we come up with our best ideas. And when our ideas are working good, we're not thinking very much about how to come up with a new idea. Now we're kind of back in that we know how to make renewable fuel, we don't quite know how to sell our products well enough. And it comes back to this market access situation. And it's always been market access. And so things that I want you to know would be this, that we had a blender's credit that started this. It was 51 cents a gallon on corn ethanol. And then we dropped, I'll say we, Congress, I opposed it, dropped 6 cents off of that and took it down from 51 cents a gallon to 45 cents a gallon. I said, don't do that because you will freeze the development of new ethanol plants. You send the wrong message. I lost that argument. It went to 45 cents, set up to expire December 31st of 2011, if I have my date right. Is that right, Monte? Okay, so that spring in 2011, in March of 2011, the renewable fuels industry came out to Washington and said, the last half of our year, we've got $3.2 billion of subsidy that we can collect off of this blender's credit. But we want to give you that back. We want to give you back $3.2 billion back, and back into the U.S. Treasury, half of it to go for debt reduction, and the other half to go for market access. And I tell you this for this reason, because the petroleum industry has always fought our market access, and if anybody argues with that, you need to know this narrative, because what happened was, we weren't able to give that $3.2 billion back to the U.S. government and the taxpayers. The question was $1.6 billion to deficit reduction, $1.6 billion for blenders, pumps, and flex fuels. And the petroleum industry, with their dream team lobby, went in there and they went office after office and killed that proposal. And so the $3.2 billion came into the industry by the end of the year, but you've seen now the pattern of what the petroleum lobby does to try to shut down competition. It is market access, and this waiver that we've always needed to go to E15 for the 4 months in the summertime, it's about the reed vapor pressure or the evaporation coefficient. Well, the highest evaporation that we get out of the blend in ethanol is at E10. And then the evaporation tapers off as you go to E15, 20, 30, E50, which is in my vehicle today. And so if it's a standard practice to grant a waiver for E10, it makes no sense to require a waiver for E15 or any level above. I'd say also that I'm happy to go to E15, but I don't want to get stuck at E15. I don't want to see another blend wall like we saw at E10. So I want to be pushing the speaker, or the secretary, let's take this thing beyond. And I mean, the EPA administrator is the one that makes the call. So you know that he was at the state fair here a couple of weeks ago, Administrator Wheeler, and there were some events that went on, public events, and 20 or 30 organizations and individuals that talked to him. So I'm watching that, and I'm thinking, this man has to sleep somewhere. And so it happened to have been the Holiday Inn Express, because he was going to be an expert, I suppose, but I wasn't going to let him go to bed until he was. And so we met, not necessarily by his choice, in that lobby, although I gave him a little warning, Monte. And we sat in the lobby for 40 minutes that night until finally he said, I've got to go to bed. And I said, I can see that. He was a little tired. But he needed to hear all the things that you had said, put together in a composite. And in that 40 minutes, I had a list in my head I wanted to deliver. And I got done, I said, have you heard anything at your meetings today that I didn't bring up in this meeting here? And he said, no. Well, good. Now I've got a few more things I want to talk to you about. But
here's a couple of points in that with Wheeler. It says that the language on the blend says shall contain 10% ethanol. Shall contain. And it's been interpreted by the EPA as less than 10%. But I'll say if it's not containing 10%, if it's got 9.9 or 9.7 or 9.1 in it, it's got to be 10 at a minimum, not 10 at a maximum. They've got this upside down. And so I took that argument to him and I said, I wonder who wrote that language. I actually knew who wrote the language. It was him. And so he said, well, I did. I said, good. I stumbled into this, but I didn't. And now I get to ask you, what was the intent? Was it 10% or more, or was it less than 10%? And if it was less than 10%, why didn't you write it that way? And he said, well, I really wish I would have written it more specifically. But specifically for me is, what was the intent? And he said, I don't know. I can't give you a definitive answer on the intent. And I don't know what he thought I was going to say to that, but I said, good. Because now we don't have to argue about the intent of the language. Now we can go to the plain letter of the law, which clearly includes 10% a minimum, not 10% maximum, and that opens the door for them to set the standard to go beyond E15, 20, 30, 50, 85. And that's what we need to do. We need to blend this as high as the market will bear. And we know we've got a study up in Watertown, South Dakota, E30, at 50 million miles and not one single mechanical problem in 50 million miles. And that's all people across that community. I don't know how many vehicles it is, but it's all set up in a spreadsheet. So there's much we can do. The last thing I'd close with is this, is that your voice matters. You being here matters. The caps you're wearing matters. And you think nobody's listening to you, but maybe the person that somebody else is listening to is listening to you. The chain reaction goes up. Sometimes you get to bypass and you go directly to the person that makes a decision. Other times you're feeding information into the people that are pumping it into the person that makes a decision. But it all matters, and I'm really glad that you're here today. We are in a good place to be able to support Secretary Perdue and help him encourage Administrator Wheeler to do the right thing. But I think in the end, after looking in his eyes and Wheeler's eyes, I think the President is going to have to tell him what to do. And it looks to me like Sonny Perdue is also contributing to that, telling him what to do. So I've got a week and we maybe get some good news if I listened right, Monte. Thanks a lot. I appreciate your attention. We'll keep working it.
Thank you, Congressman King. I just want to thank everybody for being here. It was very important that a high official of the Trump administration not come to the Farm Progress Show and not be told that the RFS and biodiesel and E15 matter. I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Iowa Corn, Iowa Soybeans, National Corn, American Coalition for Ethanol, Growth Energy, Renewable Fuels Association, Fuels America, National Biodiesel Board, and yes, even my group, Cassie, Lucy, wherever you are, thanks for all your work here today, and the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association. We'll see. They said next week. Sometimes in politics things change, so we're not going to count our chickens. But I think the fact that every time someone from the administration comes to Iowa, they get hit in the nose by saying, do it now. Why in the world are you waiting? Do it now. And I don't think the president wants to come back to Iowa until he can say he did it. And so I just want to thank, that's not because of me, that's not even because of the ethanol guys you saw here, it's because of the farmers. It's absolutely because of the farmers in rural America. That's who they care about. And so your voice is so important. Thank you so much for being here. And then once again, thanks to the Sukup family and their Sukup company for having us here and letting us destroy the ability for this nice guy back here. Someone go buy a building so I don't get in trouble, because he needs to make up some time. So, all right.